Welcome to another episode of the New Money Fight Club. I am Steve O'Connell. We are here with Cristobal Gonzalez, and we have a very, very special guest today. Joining us is Cory Schafer, the head of the ISKA. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Well, I feel special. Thank you for making me feel special, and I'm glad to be here and to be available for our media partner.
Yeah, it's a real honor to have you here today. Just doing a little research for this interview, and I started to get a little daunted because your bio is unbelievable. For those who don't know, Cory's been the president of the ISKA. This is one of the biggest governing regulatory bodies of striking arts, right, on planet Earth. I guess that's the umbrella
striking,
term.
grappling. We currently sanction and regulate under, I think, 27 different formats of martial arts competition, separated mostly combat sports, where like kickboxing and Muay Thai and MMA, where we're damaging the opponent through strikes as a way to earn favor with the judges, as compared to martial arts or sparring competitions, where it's martial arts athletics and demonstration, or sparring, where damaging the opponent is a way to earn cautions, warning, or penalization. So we're involved in the combat sports side and in the martial arts side, and are just honored to be able to contribute in the way we do.
Yeah, your contributions are just massive. Working in the regulatory body back in the day for Strikeforce, you've been ISKA president now almost 30 years. Glory, K1, consulting for Karate Combat now. Boxing Commission, MMA Rules Commission, and then, of course, the U.S. Open, right? The ISKA, which is, from what I understand, the largest martial arts tournament it's going on for the longest amount of time, but it's also got the most competitors, right?
Well, this year is our 50th annual. And,
congratulations.
Myself and my associates, my partners, we've been doing it for 38 years. It's a remarkable event. It's something that everyone in the industry is really proud of. We generally draw, near 3,000 competitors from 50 countries.
3,000 competitors?
Oh yeah, it's yeah.
That is huge.
Can fathom that. Fathom that. Yeah, it's a it starts on Thursday with team events, and Friday and all day Saturday. On Friday night, we have a live streamed amateur world championship event with the best of the amateurs. On Saturday in the morning, we begin with the ISKA World Breaking Championships. If you've never seen this, this has been aired on ESPN forever. It's martial arts breaking. To say it's entertaining is a gift for understatement. And these are the greatest guys. It's such a wonderful culture. And that happens on Saturday morning to afternoon. And then Saturday night, we do the largest show, which is the ISKA World Professional Open Karate Championships, or martial arts championships, which features the best of the best of the best that have qualified all year in performance martial arts and sparring divisions and things like that. And like I said, for me to be able to contribute to creating a platform for such remarkable athletes and such remarkable performers, it's a privilege.
And this will be in Orlando, right?
We host it in Disney World every year. This year, it's going to be streamed on Swerve Sports, on Triller, on Stadium, on the Fight Network, on Black Belt Plus. The streaming networks obviously have great interest because the performances are just nothing less than remarkable. But also, it's a very good demographic. The people that travel to karate tournaments, let's just say it's a great demographic, and the networks, kind of line up, which is exciting. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Performance, Fortify, Performance Nutrition, Century Martial Arts, and Maya, the Martial Arts Industry Association, because they, contribute to making this happen.
Yeah, and out of all the accolades I see, it's like, I know that you're a 4th degree Wadō-ryū karate. What is the like? I'm not in the karate world, but what does that mean specifically?
Yeah, I earned my 4th degree black belt in Wadō-ryū, which is one of the 4 original Japanese systems of karate. The founder of Wadō-ryū studied with Gichin Funakoshi, who is considered the modern day father of karate in Japan. But prior to that, Master Utsuka, the founder of Wadō-ryū, was a practitioner of jujitsu. So he applied his jujitsu techniques to karate and developed Wadō-ryū, which means the way of peace. I started training in judo as a small child and then karate. And I earned my fourth dan in 1995. I continue to train. I continue to teach. And, you know, if I wasn't a practicing martial artist, I think I would have lost interest or not been as interested in continuing to be involved in martial arts competitions and the regulatory side of combat sports. So it kind of ties everything together.
Was it a love at first sight with martial arts? Was it something inside you? Like how did you get involved and keep this for so long?
I co-owned and taught at a school for almost 38 years. And it's funny too, because, you know, I would listen to people say why they got involved or describe it after the fact, you know?
Yeah.
And I always laugh because, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but for most people, you know, they get involved in martial arts because they want to have the perception, the self-perception that I can't be pushed around. You know, I can stand up for myself. I want to perceive myself as someone that cannot be intimidated. And I think that that's something that people share. And looking back honestly, you know, when I was a kid, yeah, that was what I wanted for myself. Now, you know, you don't train and teach for 40 or 50 years for the same motivation. Your motivations change over time. You begin to recognize the benefit of the continuous day-to-day effort to address your weaknesses and to strengthen them, and the humility that it gives you and how it impacts your life and your existence, and the self-discipline and appreciate a life where there's an appreciation of respect and responsibility and courtesy. And so, you know, so your motivation changes. But for me, yeah, I wanted to feel like I could kick ass.
Hey man, I'm 100% on board with what you say, because that's the reason why I started this as well.
Right?
Yeah,
it's good to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it changes you. It's like as you mature as a human being, you know, the martial arts journey, that whichever you choose to go on also matures as you grow, and that's the fascinating thing about it.
And, you know, and all the arts are great or not so, depending upon the quality of the instructor and the program. But there's no one that's inherently better than the other for the real benefits. You know, as long as people understand that it's that day-to-day continuing effort to become more than you are that really yields the reward. The striking, the kicking, the grappling, whatever it is, that's just a vehicle. But it's the humility that comes from facing your weaknesses and doing the work to address them and overcome them. That's where the real benefit in martial arts is.
And you've come up in a traditional Japanese style. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously the martial arts have evolved a lot since you've been training. You know, now we've seen the rise of MMA and MMA specific gyms.
Yep.
So, you know, what has that been like for you sticking with a traditional discipline?
Well, I was very fortunate to have instructors who required a traditional environment, but had a very progressive program. I mean, we incorporated boxing skills, and because jiu-jitsu was part of the founding style, we did arm lock sweeps, takedowns, and throws. I came from a judo background first. So I was fortunate to be in a program where the traditional ethics were emphasized. We used the Japanese terminology, still do, but it was a progressive program. We were plugging into the most modern sport karate sparring, type formats. When kickboxing became popular in America, it was really full contact karate, and we transitioned to be full contact karate or kickboxers, which was the first form of kickboxing in America. So we were doing that. I found an interest and a talent in the regulatory side by accident. I was at a show where I had a fighter who I was training, who was a brand new professional who was fighting a fighter named Mike Bell, a legendary fighter from Florida in the earliest days of kickboxing, who was a retired world champion who was coming back. And the bout was over, and one of the judges got sick, and the promoter asked me if I'd be willing to judge a fight. So I went, yeah, okay. And so I judged the last couple of fights, I think, and my scores seemed to be better than the other judges. So, and this was the critical point. He asked me if I'd come back for the next show and judge and help the other judges get it right. So I'm a little pedantic. I'm a detail guy. Right. So I went home and I wrote a judge's manual, because if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. You can talk all you want, but when you put it down on paper in bullet points and you like that, and then I probably a month after that, I was doing certifications and then later on became the head of official certification for ISKA, and boom, I'm working on the regulatory and official side, and went on to become certified as a refereed kickboxing all over the world, and judges, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I have a great love for combat sports officials and regulators. I believe it's a noble calling. We always say, who does a job that if you do it perfectly 1,000 times in a row, not one fan's going to stand up and clap for you, but one questionable call, they're going to roll the bus back and forth over you for months. Special people. You have to have a special commitment to justice, a love of the sport, a respect for the athletes, to be willing to take that deal. Ask Jason Herzog.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Just the commitment over the years and seeing how, your life has just evolved with the sport and your whole career out of it. And then now, one of the big reasons why we got connected to do this interview was there's some big news with ISKA, right? Yes. Would you like to, spill the beans?
Break it for us.
Gosh, this is going to sound terrible, but we're blessed to say that there's always big news. We operate right now in 51 countries. We reach out and build relationships with international federations. We connect with, organizations all over the world that have a common goal and will create a common culture. Most recently, we're privileged to be approved by the California State Athletic Commission to sanction and regulate kickboxing and Muay Thai in the state of California.
Congratulations.
That's a big market. That's a lot of events a year. That's the privilege of serving a big community and the responsibility to a lot of athletes and a lot of gyms and a lot of promoters and a lot of trainers. And we take that responsibility seriously. I want to recognize our newly appointed state director, Anthony Casada, from the Bay Area, who's a very, very experienced man in all the aspects, and will become more experienced. We're going to have a slow rollout to make sure that we do it right. We have an agenda to address several points simultaneously. And for us, it's all about, establishing the culture that's worked for us in many, many other states and in countries around the world. And that begins with a recognition that, it's not about the letters. Nobody buys a ticket to come see the sanction body.
Yeah.
It's about the fighters.
Right.
First, second, and last. It's about the fighters. You make it about the fighters. There's a saying among, our leaders, our directors, all of our event supervisors that we go over and over. The beginning of the event is when I make it about me. Not about me. It's about the fighters. That's number one. The second thing is it's about helping promoters be successful. Nothing fuels the engine of growth for a sport like kickboxing or Muay Thai more than successful promoters. When they're successful, they promote more often and they promote bigger shows, which means more opportunity and a bigger stage for the athletes. So sometimes helping promoters means protecting them from themselves. Yeah, I get that. But we try to create an environment where, we're going to support the promoters. We're going to make sure that they meet the guidelines for full compliance, but really in a spirit of saying, hey, how can we help this promoter be more successful? And the last thing is create an environment where officials can grow and develop, advance their position in the industry if they want to do that, and feel respected and appreciated. This is not rocket science. Those three things has allowed us to successfully contribute in countries around the world, jurisdictions throughout America, and it'll work in California. And we welcome the support and affiliation of anybody who shares those three cultural ideals.
Do you foresee any challenges as you start developing?
Heck yeah.
California? Yeah.
Heck yeah.
There's some regulations in this state. That,
I mean, it's never without challenge because, regulation, there's going to be somewhat competing agendas. Like I said, we want to help promoters be successful, but a promoter's agenda is put butts in seats and make fights happen. Our agenda is to make sure they're doing that in a context that meets or exceeds, all the regulatory, requirements, standards. So sometimes, there's some chafing in there. Fighters have their unique agenda. They want to advance their careers, and that should be their single agenda. And that means fighting for promoters and also meeting, regulatory compliance. Short term, the goal in California obviously is to build an infrastructure. Because if we're working with a promoter in LA, they don't want to hear about officials from Sacramento. Long term, doesn't work. So we want the promoters that work with ISKA to be self-contained, to make sure that that they can, at least over time, be fully staffed within their region to keep their budget down. The other thing is, and I've discussed this with Andy Foster, the executive officer of the California State Athletic Commission, quite frankly, my hero. He's a man that we can always rely on to do the right things for the right reasons. He's a real leader in the industry. But what I've recognized from working in other jurisdictions, if there's more than one approved sanction body that are going to regulate the same sports, you have to be cautious that it cannot be an environment where sanction bodies can try to earn, I say business, not really business. Amateur sports is not inherently profitable. But there it can be the temptation to earn the sanctioning of more events by lowering the standard of regulation, because we know that promoters will generally move in the direction of the lowest regulation because it creates the least hassle. Fighters the same. I love fighters to death, but often, and trainers, they won't make decisions consistent with their own best interests. If they didn't have to do blood work, if they didn't have to do medical tests, they'd be just as happy. But we're going to protect them from that. So I'm going to work with Mr. Foster and the commission to make sure that there's a level playing field. If there's more than one sanction body approved, and there is, we're all playing from the same regs. That everybody's base requirements are the same. And if a sanction body wants to go beyond those requirements, that's great. But, by saying that these are the minimum standards on everything that has to do with health and safety, it levels the playing field. And then the sanction bodies that succeed will be the ones that do the best job or build the best relationships, which is the way it should be. Promoters should have a choice. And, they can choose the sanction body whose culture and operation most matches their needs. Hey, that's great.
Yeah, and from your point of view, how do you balance that between like how much regulation do you have to add to what's actually necessary for the fighter? And the reason why I'm asking is because we had 2 weeks ago we were at a fight promotion, Legends Promotions, fantastic, one of the best Muay Thai promotions here in the Bay Area. And I think the CSAC had changed the rules for blood work for amateurs at the beginning of June, and many of the fighters could not get it in time. So I think around 5 or 6 fights were canceled. So my question is coming from: was that change necessary suddenly now in terms of blood work for amateurs? And how do you balance that? Is there too much regulation? Like how do you work that out?
Yeah, first and foremost, none of this is easy.
Right, of course.
There's a burden of responsibility on the commission that most people cannot begin to fathom. And again, I'll go back to Andy Foster. You're talking about a guy who did kickbox, who was an MMA fighter. who was a referee and what, so he gets it. Sometimes he needs to make, and again, I can't speak specifically on this because I'm not educated on exactly what happened, but sometimes you have to make tough decisions, even when you don't want to make those decisions. Obviously, I always said, I was asked to speak at a commission convention to new commissions, state and tribal commissions. And this was a while back. And I said, listen, the ultimate sin is when you under-inform the promoters. How do you guarantee compliance when they're not sure what compliance means? Now, certainly getting all information out to them on a timeline that is viable is preferable. And that's why, for us, it's going to be a slow rollout. So the balance, that you're talking about is a tricky thing because, reality is, again, fighters would fight if there's no regulation. We know that. But part of my job is to protect them from themselves. And I say that with the greatest love because I have great love for combat sports athletes. The promoters, like I said, their agenda in general, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but just as a recognition of having done this for so long, their agenda is to make fights happen no matter what and put butts in seats. So it takes a three-way relationship to make sure that the promoters can be successful, the fighters can advance their career, but that it occurs at an acceptable level of safety and certainly of fairness. And for me, I'm hoping that it's going to be easy in California because I'm going to ask the California Commission to set the standard on all the relevant aspects, and then we'll proceed according to that standard there or exceed it. Exceeding the standard is always tricky business because in an environment where there's more than one sanction body, no one organization can unilaterally raise the bar because the promoters will generally gravitate to the lowest form of regulation. That's why, again, based on my experience of working in so many jurisdictions, when the commission levels the playing field that says these are the standards, everybody plays by these rules, everybody wins. I'm on the Association of Boxing Commission's rules committee for MMA, and we push very hard every year to get the rules in MMA to be the same everywhere you go, because the athlete has the right in a sport at this level to compete under the same rules. It's not, oh, well, what state am I in? That doesn't make sense. Can you imagine that in the NBA?
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, not in major sports. So we want to create an environment where, whether it be within California, whether they're competing in LA or they're competing in Sacramento or Bakersfield or wherever, oh yeah, I don't have to relearn the rules. I don't have to relearn what the licensing requirements are. These are the requirements.
Now, I know you've been working in California in the pros, that hasn't gone away, but just so some people can understand the significance of this, ISKA, it's maybe the largest regulatory body, I think, in martial arts, right? Hundreds of events a year.
We do hundreds and hundreds of events. We're involved in pro sports. We're involved in amateur sports. Again, we're involved with the combat sports side. We're involved in the sport martial arts side. Nobody has greater activity in that regard. In California, I've been involved personally as the rules director for Strikeforce Kickboxing, the regulatory director for Strikeforce MMA, the director of regulatory affairs for Bellator MMA and kickboxing, having worked with the commission there on Glory Kickboxing, karate combat. I think I've worked with 5 different executive officers over the years. And let me just say right now, CSAC, arguably the best operating commission maybe that's ever been. And I don't say that in disrespect for any other commission, but when you look at the challenge of the 5th largest economy in the world, and when I talk to Andy Foster and he says, oh yeah, we only have 9 events this weekend. So to regulate at the standard that they do, with the volume of events that they do, the army of officials that need to be assigned, hey, that's nothing less than remarkable.
Yeah. I'm curious why ISKA hasn't been in California in the amateurs over the last few years.
Yeah. back when, okay, so at some point, and I'm terrible with dates. This was a long time ago. The California Commission said, we're not going to regulate the amateurs directly. We're going to approve sanctioned organization. CAMO was launched. And let me just speak about CAMO. What an operation. Arguably the best run amateur sanctioning organization in America. They have great people, but they also have access to CSAC, to the CSAC's officials, to CSAC's training. But they're doing a remarkable job for amateur MMA. When CSAC was approving a sanctioned organization for kickboxing and Muay Thai, we actually applied, but we were told that CSAC wants to approve a California-based nonprofit. Well, we were neither California-based nor nonprofit. So I just stepped back. I mean, what I found, I'm a big supporter of the Association of Boxing Commissions. Mike Mazzulli, president, his leadership has done so much to advance good things in combat sports in America. I believe that sanctioned bodies work at the leisure of the commission. We serve the needs of the commission to serve the people of the state. So, once they make that statement, we just stepped back. And I let them know that, hey, if any time in the future you felt the need for another organization, we are available. And recently, there was an opportunity where they were considering approving more than the one organization that had been working. So Andy Foster, we spoke to each other. So we applied our petition application, and we were unanimously approved.
Beautiful. And how are you going to work with CAMO? Is that we're going to go separate ways? Going to work together?
The only interface would be if there are events that will have MMA and kickboxing or MMA and Muay Thai. I've worked cooperatively with other sanctioned organizations, with other national federations in different countries. It's all about understanding the priorities, and also understanding your role. So if I really believe in allowing promoters to produce their show. In other words, they're the ones putting up the money, and I want them to be able to present their unique form of entertainment. So I believe that if they want to do some MMA and some kickboxing and some Muay Thai, great. Yeah. My answer is always yes, unless it has to be no, failure to comply, meet regulations. But it sometimes comes with an additional expense because I can't guarantee that the MMA officials will be qualified to judge the Muay Thai or referee the Muay Thai. Now, we try to find crossover officials. But let me tell you something. In the earliest days of kickboxing in California, working with Strikeforce Kickboxing, and we were doing ISKA kickboxing for ESPN. We had 12 seasons of ISKA kickboxing on ESPN. I remember the shows, and they were long shows because we'd bring the filming crew in, and we would try to achieve getting X amount of hours of programming from one live event because it was more cost effective. So we would have these marathon shows. And we would have full contact kickboxing American style. We'd have freestyle rules. We'd have Oriental rules. We'd have Muay Thai, and we'd have San show on one show. And listen, if the promoter feels that that's the best hey, it's not my job to tell them no, that's not how they should present their show. We just have to staff it. But I remember making a referee's cheat sheet, the 5 most important things about full contact Muay Thai, and I would sit with the referee right before because a lot of times we were using the same referees. So like I said, I respect the promoters who are trying to present their brand and their unique form of entertainment, and I want to support that.
Yeah.
As long as I can do it, as long as I can ensure that the athletes are adequately informed regarding the rule sets, and I can staff it with officials that can officiate it properly, my answer is yes.
Yeah, I love those cards. Here in the Bay Area, Crown Fights comes to mind. Mm-hmm. They do in San Jose. Thomas Diagne's the head promoter there. And they'll have Muay Thai and then an MMA fight. And those are some of the most entertaining cards.
Well, in a lot of jurisdictions, they put boxing on also. Yeah. Hey, listen, being a promoter is hard. Put butts in seats, you know, and the way they approach it is this bout will get me 14 seats. That bout will get me 53 seats. Oh, well, I need to bring in a new market. Okay, so kickboxing or Muay Thai or bring in a couple of boxing fights. Listen, like I said, I want to support their agenda. I want to help the promoters advance their brand. You know, I know that promoters, you know, they want to do their promotional title bouts. Hey, great. For us, that's just another bout. You know, there is no increase in charge or fees connected to their doing their promotional titles. That's for them to advance their brand, and we want to support that.
Are there any changes that you have in mind as you get a lay of the land here of the other, you know, what will you bring to the commission? What kind of changes do you think day one you want to bring?
I don't think that I'm going to, listen, you know, the starting point is pretty darn good in California. There's a lot of information there. I know that they're already in the process of a consideration. You know, when I was on the committee that wrote the Unified Rules of Kickboxing for the Association of Boxing Commissions, and the amateur version of the same, the recommendation was that amateur kickboxers would be kind of separated by novice and advanced. And the dividing line would determine what gear they were required to wear. But ultimately, each state would determine that. What is novice, what is advanced? So what appears to have been the standard in California was 2 fights. In other words, after 2 fights, you're advanced. I'm not going to be critical of anybody that's already operating there, but 2 fights, you're advanced. I mean, I fought 2 times. I didn't feel advanced. You know, so I think the commission would prefer a 5-fight demarcation. It's things like that you know, what I'm just going to do is, at Mr. Foster's request or urging, is create a list of bullet points of not what I think they should be. It's what does the commission think they should be? And then let's have all the sanction bodies operate under those terms, whether it be age restrictions for junior fighters, like someone 14 can't fight someone who's 17, you know, 18 months, insurance requirements, you know, gear requirements. I mean, things like that. You know, obviously no knees to the head for amateur, you know, anything that addresses safety. Like I said, we all want to be playing from the same script. Everybody wins.
Well, speaking of gear, are you going to push for the 1FC format with MMA gloves in Muay Thai? I know, you know, now we've got bare knuckle boxing in California, so that might be an easier process to implement that. Is that something that you want to push for?
With regulation, no such thing as an easy process.
Yeah.
It's been there. Thought it was going to be easy. 9 months later, still hammering away at it. You know what? On one side, okay, I'm a pragmatist. Okay, so let's just talk about in pro sports for a second, and then I'll segue into the amateurs. You know, the one championship version where they're doing Muay Thai or kickboxing with the little gloves. Everything that they're doing is a subset of what's already approved because it could happen in an MMA ring. Functionally, the difference is it's a shorter round. So again, listen, I'm a bit of a libertarian. I think that you have to have a compelling reason why it should not be allowed. I don't see the compelling reason why it shouldn't be allowed if it's a subset of the rules that already exist. Now, regarding bare knuckle fighting championships or bare knuckle fighting, you know, we have to separate ourselves even as regulators. Do I like this? Not relevant. That's not the America that I was born to and am proud to be a citizen of. You know, should it be allowed? Well, again, we live in a market where I can sit on your chest and drop forearms on your head.
Right.
So do we really have a right to say that bare knuckle boxing should not be allowed? Again, I tend to look at it that way. I think that California tend to look at it that way as well. So for me, I think that no needs to be restricted to things that absolutely have to be no. But I think it needs to be vetted properly and see. But again, and then that would seem rational, right? But there are jurisdictions right now that allow MMA that don't allow Muay Thai. Well, I don't know. It's a subset of rules that are already approved, shorter rounds and more padded gloves. But, it literally takes an act of Congress in that jurisdiction because the way the laws were written, it is. So none of it is easy. But it's work that I embrace. All I've ever wanted is to, when I'm done, to be able to look back and feel like I contributed, I did my part, I made a difference, made it safer, made it more fair, created opportunities for athletes to perform on a great stage and help promoters be successful.
100% what you're doing, Cory. And you're right in the midst of this career. It's like you got a long way to go. It sounds like.
Well, I don't know, man. 67. I got a couple years left, but
yeah.
I mean, like I said, I love the culture. That's what keeps me in. I love officials. I love regulators. I go to the ABC convention every year, and I sit through every presentation, even the boxing ones, and I'm not involved much in professional boxing because I'm a regulatory nerd. I mean, I just love it. I really do. And I love the officials and their dedication and their passion. Like I said, doing the right things for the right reasons, all about it.
I can't imagine what it's like organizing a 3,000 person tournament in Disney World. You really do need to love it. The amount of moving parts, it's mind-boggling.
We have an extraordinary staff. I work with, my partners, Mike Sawyer and Mike McCoy, who have been the promoters of the event for 38 years, who are just, remarkable leaders in the industry. And you don't do an event like that without a ton of officials and coordinators and directors. And, for the good thing is we've done it 38 times. The bad things is, it's still just as hard, in terms of, to do it the way we do it. That's the thing. It's advertised as not just the biggest, most prestigious event of its kind, but also the most family friendly. In order to do that, it's about customer service. And these people are customers. So I really take that personally to see that, everything is addressed. We have more than 70 big team leaders. These are team leaders that register, 25, 50 competitors, and they have personal access to me, and like I said, it's about finding new ways to do it even better. That's what has kept Mike, and myself motivated over the years. If it was just, let's get up for doing it again, honestly, just kill me now. No, it's how can we do it better? How can we do it bigger? How can we create a better stage for the athletes? That's what gets us up in the morning and willing to do the work.
And this is the 50th iteration of this tournament.
We're pretty sure it's the 50th.
Are you celebrating? Are you billing it as the 50th?
You know what? Back early, I wanted to do a whole marketing campaign on it, and it just never flew. But then we've talked a little bit more about making announcements, and I've downloaded some videos from as long as back as their video existed. To maybe we can show during the breaks on our live stream.
That would be great.
But we've been doing it, I'm pretty sure, 38 years. I'm the absolute worst at tracking things like that. There's yesterday and there's tomorrow, and that's about my extent, But it's like I said, it's been a crazy run. I remember the first year I competed while helping to present it, and I tell people, when I bowed in that division, the guy on the right for me was from Guatemala, and the guy on the left was from Italy. And I realized right then, what? This is not an Olympic sport. I'm never going to the Olympics. This is my Olympics. This is my Olympics. I took second that day. It's the only trophy I still have. And that's second. I was successful competitor. And I won first place bunches and bunches of times. I don't have any of those trophies. I have that second place trophy because that was the most meaningful accomplishment to me. So I try to fulfill that responsibility to the athletes every year, is to make them, nothing's worse than an athlete that gets an award or a belt. Yeah, he's happy to get that award or that belt. But if he knows really in his mind what it represented is not what it's billed to be, that's unacceptable. So we try to, one of the things we're doing in California, in our sanctioning package, it will come with a state title with no extra charge. They'll need to just buy the belt, because we want to promote legitimate state titles. And then we want to pit those state champions in California with our state champions in New York. We have a huge operation in New York where we sanction and regulate more than 60 events a year for national titles. Why? Because that's what's good for the athletes. And guess what? You win that national title and you have the right record, we're going to arrange for you to go to Europe. That's what excites me. So we want to help the promoters, be able to advertise that, market that, kind of fuel that fire of opportunities for the athletes. Because that's, like I said, that's what it's all about. And we make it easy. We'll make it easy for them because it won't cost anything other than the cost of the belt for them. But we're going to hold a very high standard.
Yeah.
Just because they sold 300 seats for you doesn't mean they qualify for a title.
No, I like that. East Coast, West Coast, and they go kick some ass in Europe.
Right. Everybody loves that. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's interesting with college sports. We've got NCAA and there's different leagues for this sort of stuff. But in the fight world, will we ever see, state versus state championships, maybe like a Final Four type thing?
It's tricky because there really is a qualitative difference between all sports and combat sports. Again, when you're talking about, and I try to help commissions define combat sports because they're obliged to regulate. And this is done at the state level. It's not done at the national level. Every state has their own commissions, or they don't. They regulate or they don't, but it's at the state level. But combat sports, meaning that in the contest, damaging your opponent through strikes earns you a path towards victory. That needs to be regulated by the state because the risk is so high. The athletes are willing to take the risk. The trainers understand that. Everybody understands it, but it needs to be done under a careful eye, either by a state athletic commission or by an approved sanction organization. So that, how doing it at a national level is a little bit tricky. Now, we, in the states that we operate, I try to push that agenda. We have a Tennessee champion. We have an Arizona champion. We have a Colorado champion. We have a New York champion. We have a Delaware champion. Try to make it happen. Sometimes the promoters like that idea. Sometimes they don't. But for me, I feel like I've never missed the path when I just simply consider what's good for the fighters. Keep it simple, and that's good for the fighters.
And you're so dedicated. Fantastic.
Listen, I've been blessed. I love the work that I do. I've never, they say if you love what you do, never worked a day in my life. It hasn't been easy, nor should it be. And like I said, it's, we just want to keep ourselves in the picture with the opportunity to contribute.
Speaking about this, like how it would work nationally, because I know that there's some talks about it, eventually maybe possibly MMA being part of a college curriculum, university curriculum being part of a sport that's being taught. How would that affect?
Hey, as much as I'd like to think that will happen,
yeah,
I could see BJJ,
right?
Because wrestling already exists. Again, when you're talking about striking arts, we're living through a time for a fairly liberal, culture, and embracing that at the college level, I'm not sure if that's on the agenda of most universities. I live in a university town. Okay. Many years ago, there was something called Fraternity Slugfest. Okay. And it started as just a boxing competition where they raised money for a charity. It was the Alachua County Boys and Girls Club. It was great. And they did it at a big facility at the University of Florida. And then after the first couple of years, they started hiring trainers and training all year. I used to referee it, as with Mike and Mike, my associates, my partners. We used to referee it. And then it got really big. And they were raising at the time, and this was, I don't know, maybe early 90s, $15,000, $20,000 for charity. But the university pulled the plug on it, said, because, oh, now that they're training, it's way too dangerous. I'm sorry, what? Now that they're training, it's way too dangerous. And tragically, the night of the event, someone had drowned in the university pool. I mean, it's always a tragedy. But again, it has to do with the perception tied to combat sports and the risk and like that. So yeah, I would love to see martial arts of some kind in curriculums, like it is seen in other countries, not just for self-confidence, but again, for all the reasons and the qualities of character it builds that we discussed earlier. I think it'd be great. Our public schools, and man, hats off to public school teachers. Talk about a noble calling. I mean, they need all the help they can get.
Briefly, I taught a little jiu-jitsu in a public school, in middle school years ago. And yeah, they got a lot out of it. I could tell they were thrilled that when the teacher showed, we would bring our mats in.
Yep.
And yeah, it was very rewarding.
Yeah. I used to do, I used to do what's called special days. Each, at like the middle schools, each student would have a special day where they could share something. And a lot of the students were my karate students from my school. So I would come in and we would do a karate demonstration. I would make that young man or young woman the star. But I would make it real in that, I had a high level of expectation regarding the behavior, the attentiveness of the students in class. And, I was firm about that. But you know what? Kids are crying out for that type of leadership. Kids are crying out for structure. The more firm I was in establishing the parameters on what's going to happen today on this special day and like that, the more they'd gravitate and show up at my karate school. They'd go home and tell their parents. Given the right path and an opportunity to right path, kids will gravitate in the right direction. You just need to give them that opportunity. Yeah,
they just give them the discipline of like sit in your seat, do your homework, not participate in this rigorous traditional martial art, behave yourself.
Well, listen, I taught, martial arts to kids for almost 40 years. And it was for just one reason. And that was to defeat the entitlement philosophy that seemed to be crushing the nation and to encourage a philosophy of accountability. That, for the most part, we are where we are and who we are based on the choices we've made. And we're going to become what we're going to become based on the choices yet to make. You're in control. Yeah. It's about accountability. In the dojo, listen, I'm going to love you where you are. But you're not getting promoted until you can demonstrate the skills. You're accountable. So I believe in that. I believe in that. That's the job of every martial arts instructor. I think that. And I think that, the kids that we were able to expose that to really benefited from that. And I believe that the adults benefit from it too. And I think fighters do. Fighters are among the most honest and noble people I've ever seen. I see a fighter who fights his heart out and we witness unbelievable human drama. And it's a close fight. And at the end, he loses a close decision. Well, what I found is that athlete can accept that. He can accept that until his people start coming around him and start saying he got ripped off because they're uncomfortable. They didn't do the work to be able to perform at that level. So they're uncomfortable with the loss. They don't know how to deal with it. So they start saying, oh, well, I think you should, oh, you got ripped like that. And then that starts, the fighters start, oh, well, maybe, because everybody's telling me this.
There's that accountability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that the athletes themselves, though, their nature is to be accountable. And I see it time and time again.
I agree.
Again, that's part of what I love.
I agree.
There's
100%.
no shame in defeat. There's shame in lack of preparation and lack of execution. And one of the things I love about MMA, which I think is better, and I'm a big boxing fan, is in MMA, everybody loses. Superstars are 13-4. In boxing, you're 13-4. Get to the back of the line, man. You're not even like that. And I think that that's great. You're as good as your last fight. And you win 3 in a row and you're back in the mix. And I think that that's wonderful. It's good for the sport. And it's something that's inherently makes MMA better than some of the other, combat sports where one defeat sends you to the back of the line, and that back of the line, you can't even see it.
I agree completely with what you said in terms of the athletes being 100% accountable. I train with fighters and athletes, and even in their losses, they accept it completely. And, at least the gym that I go to, Resistance Fitness Center, let's go. They always, even though in the losses, we might have our bad moments and, disagreements with the call, but in the end, like, it's always that attitude of, if you lost for a reason, and, you left it in the end, either to a judge or to something that went off, and you have to come back and prove yourself again. So that's the attitude that I felt the most from the martial artists.
What my sensei would say to me, hey, win by a margin where any judge would be embarrassed to take it away from you. And if you don't, sit down and shut up. Yes, sir.
You can't say anything to that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And, honestly, that's been my theme. It's so funny, too, because, someone will lose by a split decision and they say, no, I think I should have won by a split decision. Wait a minute. So you're saying it's close enough that the judges disagree.
Yeah,
right.
But hey, that's what I love about the sport, and I will defend the fans, different story. I will defend their right to complain, condemn, criticize. Hey, they're the one financing the operation. They're putting their money down, so the fans are entitled. But that's a different story.
Yeah, that just comes with the territory. The fighter, they'd have to get thick skin. You mentioned your sensei had that quote, and when we were talking on the phone the other day, you told me another quote of your sensei about criticism.
I did, didn't I? Yeah.
Criticism is the tribute. Mediocrity
pays to success.
Put that one up on the wall.
Yeah.
Criticism is the tribute. Mediocrity pays to success.
Yeah, and listen, I was just talking to one of my state directors earlier today. His name is Joe Wall. He's my director in New York, a stand-up guy who does a tremendous job for us supervising. And in New York, ISKA is licensed to fully sanction and regulate pro Muay Thai and pro kickboxing and sumo and karate combat. And he got beat up on the internet or some promoter that was not the promoter that he was working with. It was a jealous promoter, said some ugly stuff. And I said, dude, hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
There's only one way to avoid criticism. That's to do nothing.
Right.
And since that's not an option, get comfortable with it, brah. Get comfortable with it.
Well said.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't sweat that. But, like I said, but I also make sure that my people are never baited to that level. Our leaders understand we don't do the 3 C's. We don't criticize, we don't complain, we don't condemn. None of that stuff contributes to a solution. We try to find the path of solution, be part of the solution. More times than not, that happens through supporting the athletic commission in the jurisdiction where we're operating, or going to the associations or boxing commissions and doing the real work of making change. Not, the little wine in the pond. That doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah, I have learned a ton from this conversation. This has been incredibly elucidating all the way you've been behind the scenes guiding martial arts globally. It's fantastic to talk to you, Cory. And anybody that watches this whole interview the whole way through is going to get a really great education about just really what it takes behind the scenes, to run these regulatory bodies and the mindset, just to see how dedicated you are. I think this has been great.
Thank you for saying that. I'm all about behind the scenes. And we were doing this before social media was a thing, and then social media became a thing. And my directors all over the world said, well, Mr. Schafer, you need to take pictures where you go and put it on social media. I'm like, no, I don't need to do that, because it's not about us. Now, I realize that it does need to happen, and I don't like doing that.
We'll do it for you, Cory. We'll blow you up a little bit.
But I am better at it because they all insisted. But like I said, I resist, anything that would lead anybody to think that it's about the letters. Yes, it's funny. It's counterintuitive. Some sanction organizations, and I've worked with a bunch. Some are great, some are okay, some are not so okay. But I've worked with a bunch. It's counterintuitive. When you push your letters, that's not how to build your brand. You build your brand by creating great opportunities for fighters and helping promoters be successful. Then your letters will do great. It's a little counterintuitive,
right?
But that's what's worked for us. I'm going to stick with it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, just serving the martial arts community. Congrats on 50. Right. I can tell just from talking to you. That's our attitude too. Yeah. We go to these promotions and we just want to provide shine on the fighters, help the promoters out. And it is, they keep asking us back because we're there for them.
Not surprising.
Yeah, that's the formula.
I'm here for you. If at any time I can be of service, that's what we do. We look forward, to, building our operation in California the way we have, in so many jurisdictions. And I just want to say that, officials, if you're officiating with another organization, great. Officials that work more often are better officials. If you're inclined to also take on additional events and work with ISKA, we welcome you. Promoters, if you're happy with if you're happy with the sanctioning organization, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. We're there because, having a choice is better. For those that are looking or interested in the kind of, global exposure we can provide with our social media, hey, that's great. We're here, like I said, we're here to serve. And, we look forward to the opportunity. We feel the weight of the responsibility, and we respect the privilege that CSAC, has provided for us.
So when are you competing again?
I've been thinking about that.
Hey,
I've been thinking about it because in here, I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
I'm the same guy.
Tell me when you're not there and you see them compete, you're like, I want to get in there so bad.
You know what? I mean, I had a great run with Bellator. It was an honor. I mean, it was such a remarkable culture for the 14 years that we did Bellator. And I would sit cage side and I would watch those fights, and I'd leave going, yeah. I'd get home, hit the bag, and then I couldn't move my neck for about a week. And I'm like, well, maybe not.
Right.
For every time there's a season, so I'm going to continue to contribute the way I am. I'm going to continue to train in the martial arts in the ways that I can. And we'll leave it at that.
Thank you for sharing all this with us.
It's my
beautiful
pleasure.
journey, and we're happy to keep watching. And congratulations on the big changes with ISKA and getting back into the California amateur scene. We are really happy. We'll hopefully see you at an event soon.
That's the plan. I hope to come out there and to meet the officials and the supervisors and the infrastructure that we're going to build. Nothing makes me happier So I'll look forward to seeing you at ringside. And until then, be well, guys.
Gracias, amigo.
Thank you, Cory Schafer. Appreciate it so much, sir. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.